So as I'm talking and as I'm going back, I'm very aware that I'm going to do that. And I may do it for 45 minutes. And then I'm like, you knew you were going to do this. You have to be very aware of the conversation you're having while you're doing it, because your mind chooses the path of least resistance. Your mind has the ultimate tactical advantage over you. It knows what scars you. It knows your fears. It knows your insecurities, and it protects you. Which is why I talked about the 40% rule in my book. The 40% rule is all about the brain has the tactical advantage over you. It knows, and it keeps you away from all that. That's why it says don't jump out of an airplane. Don't go in the ocean where there's sharks. It's a protective mechanism. Don't go back. The brain protects you, but protects you so much, it doesn't allow growth. So the brain is an amazing thing, but the brain controls you. You must control it. You must take power over your own mind, or your mind will guide you into all the soft places that your brain wants to live in. Your brain has enough information. It doesn't want to go through that process of mind hardening. It doesn't want to do that. I gotta remember what time I gotta be here, what time I gotta be there. This is where I want to stay. I'm peaceful. It wants to stay very peaceful and away from scarring. You find yourself when you're not comfortable. When you're not comfortable on a daily basis. And that's how I started to grow. Like I said about the mind, it wants to put you in that nice 72-degree temperature with everything right there. It wants to be in that nice with a little massage therapist. That's where your mind wants to be. It doesn't want to be, and we're gonna talk about Hell Week. So it doesn't want to be in Hell Week. In Hell Week, I was in 3 of them. I finished 2 of them in 1 year. Only person to ever do that in SEAL history. There's been people who have gone through a couple of Hell Weeks, but in like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. I was in 3 in 1 year. They say it takes off 3 to 5 years of your life. So Hell Week is 130 hours of continuous training. You might get 2 hours of sleep. And what it does is, it's designed to break a man down to the parts where, like I talked about the surface, how I was fixing the surface. If you only fix the surface, you will never get through Hell Week. Because what it does, it starts to bring out these demons. Because even though there's a lot of yelling and stuff like that, there's times where it's very peaceful in a very eerie way. So the first hour of the 130 is breakout. They're shooting guns, it's loud, it's noisy, your mind is in chaos. When your mind's in chaos, you can't think. So you're having fun. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, we're in Hell Week, we're Navy SEALs, or we're trying to be Navy SEALs, we're badasses. Then what they do, and I don't even think that they understand what they're doing, but I studied the mind. It's perfect, it's psychological warfare. They go from an hour, the first hour when you're going crazy. The second hour of the 130, they put you in the cold water. It's called surf torture. Now they don't call it surf torture because it's a kinder, gentler word. It's called surf acclimation or something like that. So it's called surf torture for a good reason. They put you out there. No one's quit yet. It's only been an hour. Maybe a couple of guys have. And you're in the Pacific Ocean, which is never warm. You're all linked arms. You're sitting there and the waves are crashing over you. I went through winter Hell Weeks, which is cold. The Pacific Ocean is like 50 degrees. It was 49 this particular night in my 3rd Hell Week. And what it does is it makes your mind flip out. We've been doing this now for 3 weeks, being in this water. But for some reason now, the water is colder than it's ever been. It's not. Our minds are fragile. We can process a day. It's hard to process 130 hours. There's no end. There's no end. So the mind starts to ramp up. So you're sitting there, it's quiet, no one's yelling at you, you hear the ocean, shh, shh, and you're freezing. And your mind goes spastic, starts to think, I have another 129 hours. You're not going home, you're getting yelled at, you could be frozen. So you panic, you freak out, and you want to quit. What I realized about the mind is those people who can be in that time and embrace that time and be in that moment and not allow the mind to go to 129 hours on hour 1. It's the control that we don't have in our minds. It's the control that you had to have for 3 months when you're miserable, when you're suffering, when you're laying on the floor, when you're doing all the disciplines it takes to be a monk. You cannot think about the whole process. It will make you, it will make you so insanely crazy. It's impossible. It's inhumane what I'm about to do to myself. You have to be able to break all these big, humongous, painful things in life down to the smallest molecule, because that's all the brain can handle. The brain can't handle hours and hours and hours of suffering, but it can handle right now. I'm in the Pacific Ocean and it's very cold, and this is what I'm doing. Don't think about the rest of it. So that's what I learned from Hell Week. That's what I learned from being in 3 Hell Weeks. That's what I learned from all the military. I went to Ranger School, I went to all these different schools to learn all of that, to learn how the mind processes. So I talk about theorists, I talk about practitioners. A theorist is a person who reads a book, doesn't do it, reads a book, learns about something, and then talks about it. A practitioner is myself. A practitioner is a person like me. I wanted to be an expert in the mind, a mental toughness guy, beyond mental toughness. The only way to do that, in my eyes, is to put yourself in hell. Put it in hell repeatedly. Repeatedly put yourself in hell and study how you process it. And that's how I was able to come up with all these different ways, all these different tools to slow the mind down in hell. Because the mind just speeds up. The mind wants to get out of the painful situation, the suffering. It can't process it. So that's what I realized by going through all these different processes of being in Hell Weeks.
How you speak to yourself determines how you act. And a lot of you guys make things harder on yourselves than what it really has to be. For example, when we talk about building a company and we talk about sacrificing the weekends and the nights out and the times with friends, the vacations, we talk about it in terms of like it's this painful thing, right? Sacrifice. Or we talk about building a body, and we talk about building your mind through, maybe 75 hard. We talk about sacrifice, and we talk about how hard it is, and we talk about how painful it is, and we almost like hang our hats on that. And I get that. I do that as well. Like, I like to think I'm a bad motherfucker. I like to think I'm putting in the fucking work nobody else will do, and that makes me feel good. But the problem with that, guys, is that sometimes that language can actually make shit artificially harder than what it has to be. And so I want you to do this. I want you to stop thinking of things in terms of sacrifice. And I want you to start thinking in terms of investment. All right? One of the biggest mistakes that you will make as a human on a path to success, whether that success be financially, physically, spiritually, in interpersonal relationships, whatever it is, or success in all areas, when you think of it as a sacrifice, you're making it extra hard on yourself. And so what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking about investment. And I want you to understand that when you miss the weekends with the guys, or miss the night out with the girls, or you pass on the trip, or you do this, you're not sacrificing anything. You're actually making an investment, because the investment is delayed gratification, and you just haven't seen the payoff yet. All right? So when you miss a night out to work out, you're not sacrificing a night out. You're making an investment in the future. And that investment in the future is going to create a better life. It's going to create more money. It's going to create better relationships. It's going to create a better body. It's going to create more confidence. When you're getting something in return for what you're giving up, it's not really a sacrifice, it's an investment. And this is something that all of you guys need to get really clear on, because as men especially, and some women, we like to feel tough. We like to feel badass. But the truth of the matter is that when I skip something fun to do something that's hard, I know that there's a payoff coming later. And what this really comes down to is understanding delayed gratification. And if you guys can understand and make the decisions that delay the gratification, you're making an investment. A sacrifice is really just you giving something up.